Alright, bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue au podcast de la Chaise Bleue. Nous sommes présentement à Terrebonne, au Salons industriels, en ce joli 18 octobre. I have the pleasure to have here with me Dan Miller from Emerson and Véronique from Inno. All right, really nice to meet you, Dan. Thank you very much to sit down with us today.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. And
All right, all right. First question, then I think it's the first thing first. Dan, can you present yourself maybe and tell us a little bit more about Emerson, what you guys do in the industry?
Emerson's a large company, over $20 billion. We have a commercial residential side, but we also part that I am part, which is the Automation Solutions Group, which broke it up into the process side of it, and then also the discrete automation group, which is I'm part of.
Okay.
So we would do solutions for customers who are looking for componentry all the way up to a full plant solution of specified around Emerson, where we can provide them a full plant visualization, SCADA system, componentry for automation.
You're doing digital twins?
Yeah, digital twins would be part of our PLC side of the business.
Okay.
We've been in acquisition mode for the last, 5-6 years plus on the discrete automation side, where we've acquired recently a company called Progia, which developed the software Movicon Next, or Movicon, which is really used in digital transformation for all the way from 1 or 2 asset monitoring all the way up to a full plant SCADA solution.
Okay.
Would you call yourself a one-stop shop?
Yes, I would consider us a one-stop shop for probably 95% of all requests that we have. I'll never say we do 100% everything because there's always one little gap somewhere, right? But pretty much, if a customer comes to us with a question or a solution that they require, we can probably do it.
All right, perfect. And is there any specific area of a factory you guys are really good at, or it's really the overall overview of the whole factory itself?
With the floor to cloud solution that we talk about and we emphasize is that pretty much from a plant, be it food and beverage all the way to automotive to a process plant for oil and gas, we're from the front end all the way to the back end, right? I'll use an example, say a bakery. You would use a lot of our ASCO product or componentry there on the front end for the process of the yeast and milling and the mixing of the product and such, all the way through the baking of the product.
The oven process.
The ovens with
our
combustion products for the ovens and such, all the way to where you use a lot of the Aventix product lines for the packaging industry, and then you would use Movicon as the visualization for that full plant, be it for visualization of the process or for grabbing OEE data.
Okay.
From machines.
How do you guys integrate with the original equipment manufacturer? Let's say the factory, this bakery have some oven, they have the mixture already. How does it work on the shop floor? How do you integrate these machinery they already have on the shop floor?
And that's where we excel at with Movicon Next, is that it's a software stack that is agnostic.
Okay.
It has built-in drivers for pretty much every PLC company you can think out there.
Is it open source?
I will know it's not open source. It's an intellectual property owned by Emerson.
Perfect.
That is a thing that you'll find with Emerson, is that we are strong in that we are everything that we provide to a customer is intellectual property of Emerson. There are solutions that we do incorporate for some customers that is a little bit, I won't call it open source, but we'll take things like Grafana dashboarding.
Sure.
We take
Which
that
is an
open source.
Exactly. Yep.
But we would
Node-RED, I guess, as well.
Node-RED, exactly. So
Perfect.
we talk to a customer with that. We're taking the data aggregation part of it.
Sure.
We incorporate that into our stack for Pack Edge, that we already pre-package that for a customer.
Sure.
And provide that as a clean package for them, though it is open source. But then it's up to us to make sure that we keep that up to date for the customer. We're in digital transformation. I find a lot of issues out there for customers is that they'll buy this from one customer, buy that from another customer, and get this for wages monitoring from another customer, incorporate that into the plant, but then say Windows goes to a Windows upgrade for 18. Now it falls onto the customer to make sure that all those different software stacks are up to date and talking to each other and keep talking to each other.
And
And
there
is
is
that-
breaking the links all of the time, that's for
Exact
sure,
amount.
with all of the updates and so on.
So with Mavicon Next, being an intellectual property and we keep it up to date and we're always updating it and massaging it, is that when a customer buys it from us or we do a solution for them, it's really beholden to us to make sure that they're most up to date with the most up to date patch or update for Microsoft
Okay.
or whatever in Linux. So
And do you think that being this one-stop shop is the only differentiator for you guys on the market?
it's not the only differentiator. There's a lot of differentiators, I would think. Another one that I would say for us is that a lot of our competitions are very segmented, right? You'll have a PLC company over here who's predominant, or you have another supplier of pneumatic components or maybe of process valves. With Emerson, because we talk to all these different companies, we work with them, with Mavicon Next or Pack Edge or as a solution, one-stop Florida Cloud solution, we already know what they're talking about.
Sure.
We're working with them for a solution, say in an automotive line, right? Or or we talked earlier, like in a bakery, we're already there. When the customer says, "Hey, I need to do a solution," or I have a problem collecting OEE data on a machine, I can say, yes, okay, you're looking for this, right? For example, where we'll play at a customer, maybe they have something already existing from another competitor. Because we're agnostic, I can take a solution for wages monitoring and really use a pilot project that's very narrow for them to get them started. And I think that's a problem where I see a lot in industry where a lot of companies, and I'll say even some large global companies, they say, oh, I want to do digital transformation. Okay, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you want?
It is something you cannot buy by itself.
No.
It's a change of culture. It's
Exactly.
not a project. It never ends anywhere.
Right, and then the problem is that, okay, we're going to do digital transformation. And then I'll look at it and I'll say, we're giving all this information to everybody. Okay.
What do you do with it?
What are you going to do with it?
Yep.
And presentations I do is I'll have a wall, a picture of a wall of a lady standing in front of a wall of data, and she's overwhelmed.
Sure.
And I really talk about, okay, when you're looking at digital transformation, give the proper data or the important data to the people that it matters to, right?
At the right time.
At the right time. A person manufacturing widgets doesn't need to know that one of the components on the machine is going to fail or having an issue
Sure.
or an alarm for a failure. That's a maintenance. Or the person in maintenance doesn't need to know what the production rate is. Maybe they do, or whatever. Operations needs their dashboarding, their reporting. Maintenance needs theirs, and production or machine operators need their information. Really focus it to those people. And that's where I try and work with customers as much as possible, saying, really narrow the scope or the information to the right people, or you're going to overwhelm them, and
Sure.
then they'll become defeatist and say, "Oh, forget it."
And then you'll be counterproductive compared to
Exactly,
the
exactly.
original idea of being more productive.
Exactly.
So, and I think it's a true work of art to provide the appropriate information at the right time, at the right people.
And to prepare the people for that data too.
This is also truly important, and you're going exactly where I was going, Véronique. And quite often I see this company buying some, in English I'm not sure, but some île déserte. It's a desert island. There is no bridge between the software and the are lost. And what the software company are quite often not doing enough, or they don't partnership enough with the other company, is to how can you change your management system on the shop floor? How can you change your operation system to consume this new data and change the way you're doing your journey? Are you doing some company or doing any work with the operator themselves or the supervisor to change their day-to-day work with
So
the
in
new
other words,
information?
how are you making sure that the changes that you are doing really affects the day-to-day of your
sure.
customers?
Exactly, or making them more productive,
Yep.
right?
And do you accompany them? Do you have kind
Yes.
of customer journey or
Yeah.
experience?
So what I'm not sure if I'm weird of this or strange, but I always, when I talk to a customer about digital transformation, if you look at the articles I wrote, is that it's really a journey that the customer is taking, and I really tell them that I'm going to accompany you on this journey. We're starting here, we're hoping our endpoint's over here, but where the journey takes us could be anywhere.
I like it.
Right? And I think that where Emerson is very successful at is that we're willing to take that journey with the customer hand in hand and help them through the process, and call a spade too. Or like I have no problems telling a customer where they'll have up on the board on dashboard say I'm 90% OEE, overall equipment efficiency.
Sure.
And I look at it and I go 90%. Okay, how are you calculating that? Well, and some customers say, oh well, and you look at it, the machine has a breakdown or a failure, a part fails. It's the operator goes over there, turns off the machine, then all of a sudden the tag gets lit up, and then they'll take the part out, and then they'll either throw it out or whatever, and then it's up to the operator to capture the failure.
Sure.
Okay.
And to value the information, why we had a failure to drive quality
exactly.
and so on. I get it. Yep.
So if the operator doesn't hit the right justification of the failure, then you're getting bad data right away. So that's one problem right there.
So the OEE then is
not a problem because I believe that what you need for true OEE is what's your top 10 failures on a machine or a line?
Sure.
Right? Take that
Not
data.
the one you remember that happened 2 years ago when you had to slip under the machinery, you had oil in your hand, on your face, and this is all you remember. It happened every other year. So
exactly. So that's one thing. So you have to automate as much as possible the OEE calculation or the process, right? Another one is that, I have 90% OEE, but then you look at them and you look at the line, is that they might have 2 or 3 packaging lines or case packers, right? Wrapping.
Sure.
So 2 of them are in operation. The third one is a spare. But you have 90% OEE. Well, yeah, the other one's a spare. But then I argue saying, you spent $3 million or $5 million for a spare line. If I could guarantee you a 90 to 95% OEE or uptime on the other 2 lines.
$3 million capex investment.
3 to 5 million capex on that third line that you're not using, you can use somewhere else. That's when the light goes on going, oh.
We got money sleeping there.
Money sleeping there. You're not using it. It's not there. So why not push back on the OEM saying, I want you to guarantee me a 95% OEE so I don't need to spend another $5 million with you. But I'll also make sure that you work with me in keeping your uptime. And
I like it.
Right? So that's one thing.
And I would like,
go ahead.
it brings me a lot of questions that are outside what you were explaining. So if I can have both your permission to slip just outside this
you
topic.
got mine, Veronique, anytime you want.
Is there any kind of persona or maybe a kind of a typical industry where it's more difficult for this message to resonate? Or maybe on the opposite side, people you see are eager to change because in their industry, they have a lot of subvention or they have a lot of pushing from their customer to transform?
In the 5 to 10 years I've been, not quite 10, but maybe 5 to 7 years I've been working in digital transformation and working with solutions for customers, I made assumptions initially in that I thought that the big boys, I'll say like a big customer, like an automotive, maybe a GM or a Magna, right? Or a Grupo Bimbo for food and beverage, right? Or those kind of companies, they already were collecting that data and using it. And that became no. They were accumulating data, but they were doing a lot of manual reporting or manual operation. So they needed to update. So one of the things I do see there in industry is that a lot of companies need to automate the process.
Analyzation of the data, taking decision based on it?
Not so much analyzation. They need to automate the process of gathering the data.
Okay, gathering the data.
Right, like sensors and such, right? So the operator does not go to the HMI to provide a menu to say, part failed because it skipped off the line, or we had it, or it was flipped over. That should be done automatically, because the
machine knows about it. The sensor are there, and
the
so on.
sensors are because a person, might be having a bad day and might say, or doesn't really
Understand the
not understand,
wording?
understand or what's important there. So they're just going to say, okay, oh, it happened again, so I'm just going to hit this button, I'm going to hit that button, right?
And then he's training other people to do exactly as he does.
Right.
Oh, just hit that button. That
Hit
doesn't
that
really
hit that
affect
button, right?
anything.
Hit
I'm
the
the
bu-
trainer here, believe me.
Yeah, hit the button, right? And so for a plant engineer or a sustainability person who's looking at improving the process, when they look at the report, they say, "Oh, this is the thing. Oh, this is the number one thing." But if they're always hitting that button because
And they are misled somewhere
misled,
they
right?
don't want to go to.
so that is where I think that you need to accumulate the proper data. Is that okay? You do it automatically, and I do believe like the main instigator of before and after is COVID.
Okay.
Okay, before COVID, organizations like PMMI and other companies who deal with industry had reports before COVID that 60 to 70% of CPGs would never give access to their data or information on the plant
Sure.
floor to an outside OEM. Okay, it was just because of cybersecurity and such. COVID has changed that a lot, where that number has flipped to where now it's about 60 to 70% of companies will actually give access to an outside OEM to the production line to maintain their equipment.
It is crazy how many OEM have opened this new line of service into
Yeah.
the aftermarket to monitor the machinery,
Yeah.
goes in service, parts, and so on.
And for the last 3 years, 4 years, I've talked at a lot of conferences to or groups for OEMs, and at the start of COVID, I called it monitorization of OEE, monitorization of IoT. Sorry, my
Yep.
apologies. Monitorization of IoT. I came up with that term, and they're like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Okay, you could provide a service to a customer, ongoing relationship to an end user CPG, where that you could monitor your machine for them as a service, and then be able to see if you're going to have a failure or something going wrong on the machine, be it a motor running hot or a vibration,
A bearing that will
bearing
fail
will
in
fail.
toolings with the noise, the vibration.
and then contact the CPG or customer, say, hey, we're getting this information. Do you want us to go in there? Or maybe as part of this service that they're going to pay you for is an ongoing services contract of maintaining their equipment. COVID, another thing that came out of COVID is a lot of customers in their maintenance departments do not have enough people, qualified people, to maintain the equipment.
Sure.
Say a plant, I know a client of ours, he told us before and after COVID, he would usually have 7 to 8 maintenance people per plant and 3 reliability people per plant across the network. Now he is on average, if he's lucky, 3 to 4 maintenance people,
Okay.
and they have to share the reliability amongst plants. So there's not a lot of technology.
50%
50%
and less than 50% of the
reduction.
original effective.
Right. So they have an issue of maintaining that equipment ongoing, right? And with that, a lot of the historical or the history of the machinery has left with those people who have either retired
Yep.
or moved
Knowledge,
on.
knowledge, knowledge.
Knowledge retention. Yep.
Knowledge retention. So what I talk about a lot is, okay, in IoT or digital transformation, one of the things I talk about in the roadblock or the journey is there anywhere in your process that if X person was to leave the company and something goes wrong, you're done?
And the answer is probably many.
Many.
Yes.
I really like that, Dan, because my pretty own definition of a digital transformation, the main purpose why all factories should do it is the reduction of the dependency of the company towards some individuals.
Yep.
That's what we should aim at, and then we get productivity, profits, and so
And
on.
think about the employee himself. I've been there. I've been kind of the pivot point of all the knowledge about something and the decision
How were you
maker.
sleeping at night?
Well,
Exactly.
badly, and the solicitation was enormous during the day, and then I came back at home and I had all my day to do because I've been answering things all day. I'm exaggerating a bit, but the fact is those people really exist. And it's difficult to take out knowledge. So I've been knowledge management manager on a previous life, and taking out the information that is inside the engineer's brain, putting it on paper for everybody to understand and be able to read, it's a science. It's a full-time job.
It is.
And one of the modules or one of the parts of Mavicon that we use that has become very, very popular in that, and we can discuss that, I'd have to show you the stack, is that one of the parts of Mavicon is augmented reality. And where customers are able to use augmented reality to either walk through the plant and get data on a tablet or on their, if they're having the glasses, and get all the information there and see where there's an issue popping up or if something's running hot or something. But also giving access through augmented reality, and it doesn't have to be like the video game thing. It could be on a tablet or an iPhone, and say a gentleman is or a lady is who is knowledgeable as an engineering manager or a maintenance manager, has gone home for the day, and something has developed in the evening. The augmented reality gives you the ability to hover over that piece of equipment and patch in that person from remote and say, hey, can you help me with this? And
Anywhere, any place, anytime.
Right, and a lot of our clients are using that to share information amongst plants.
Yep.
Right? And not so much where they're comparing plant to plant for production and such, but helping the knowledge base where they can use
continuous improvement.
A subject matter expert on maybe a gear motor or a gearbox from plant B can help a person at plant A who might be a more junior person. That is digital transformation.
It is really
That's
neat.
IoT.
And I truly believe that digital transformation is a matter of culture at first.
Yes.
Then you shouldn't increase your intensity of sensor, IoT, AI, BI, name it, whatever. There's so many software to sell. But one of the things that is really, that truly lack at first is the improvement of the digital culture within the company. So no, I really like it. And question for you, Dan, at Emerson, in the year to come, what's the next big thing? What we don't see much today?
If you can talk about it.
If you can talk about it, I'm trying to get some special secret right now, but what's the future like?
What's the future like? I think the future is endless. There is.
I like that.
The future's endless. I think it's. How can I say it? Is that it's not going backwards, right? Technology is always going forward. If you look at the history of Emerson, we've been in acquisition mode of software solutions and products that just add on to the full Florida cloud solution. We just finished a acquisition of a company called Fog out of Switzerland that manufactures bull feeding equipment, grippers and linear actuators or servo actuators. Another one we acquired was Filtrum, which is bolt-on sensors to help for fluid dynamics, fluid monitoring. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited about that one, in that a lot of conversations I have right now for digital transformations around wages monitoring, water, air, gas, electricity, and steam, for customers to hit their CO2 reductions.
Okay.
And I think that's really changed.
So you see a trend toward this the environment impact,
yes, because
carbon footprint, and so on.
Exactly, because where I think it's really changed in the last 3 years is that a lot of companies were giving it the talk of, I want to hit my CO2 or net zero by 2030.
Sure. And
they talked about it and they made commitments, but there was no really legislative or really no penalty if they didn't achieve that.
There is not much, but it's getting there.
Now there is.
In California, there is.
Government-wise, but actually on top of that is that you have companies now that are going out there to issue bonds.
Sure.
Bonds, which is a publicly traded entity.
Sure.
So
allowed someone else to pollute.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, so they're issuing a bond, say, hey, we're going to use this money to improve or help us achieve our CO2 reductions. Okay. Right. So it's money that people are giving them to invest in their CO2 to help them achieve their CO2 reductions. And now, because that is a quantifiable investment that's mandated by the SEC, it means that now they have to provide the proof that they've hit that information, that they've actually reduced
So
by
you
2%.
need to monitor.
So you need the
And you need
monitor.
the KPIs.
And you need the KPIs, you need the
Here come
data.
the IIoT.
Exactly. So now what we're working with customers really hand in hand is now we have to help them get that data. Where were they at?
Really
to where
neat.
they're going.
And I'm
So-
happy you brought that to the table because it touches a lot of the value that we have, our generation, our
Yeah.
people in the industry. And now that we're talking about it, there's means to be able to measure it and to quantify it. So
And there's investors out there who are willing to either break even or take a little bit of a loss to looking for the future. And I think that's a big change in that they're like, the investors are saying, this is for the future of the next generation. We're willing to fund your endeavors in reducing CO2. It doesn't really have to make us money as long as you break even, right?
Sure.
So I think
thanks for
But-
those people to be there.
yeah, and I think it's really important. And I think that with Emerson, we have made our own commitments, and we do monitor
To
our own.
ease that work for your
Yeah.
customers so they
Yeah.
can say they are carbon neutral and
Exactly,
so on.
and I
Love
think
it.
that where I can go to a company and say, listen, when you work with us, we talk the talk, but we also walk the walk, right? We've made our own commitments. We're monitoring ourselves. We're investing in technology to help us achieve our CO2 reductions and carbon neutrality. And so we work with you doing the same journey, right? The same. We'll walk the journey together, right?
It's one of the very good, maybe one of the best answers I had today for the year to come. And what's the best next big thing? You know, the environment is one of the things I think we share that is truly important. So I'm really happy to see that company like Emerson is truly investing themselves into ease the work of these companies to be carbon neutral, to monetize it, and
Being a
yeah.
leader,
Yeah,
a
no.
leader amongst leader.
really good job. And talking about leaders, Dan, question for you. Let's say we will receive our Ministry of Economic Innovation and Investment here at the podcast. Let's say, Mr. Do you know Pierre Fitzgibbon? Do you know him? You know who he is?
No.
No?
So, to be honest, je suis pas un Québécois. Je viens d'Ontario.
Let's say we do something else. We go at Development Economy Canada.
Okay.
Okay, I had the opportunity, I think it was a month ago, to speak with the sous-ministre, I'm not sure in English,
Sub-minister. Yep.
some minister of the economic development. And you know, they are building programs. They want to help the company to be more competitive. They want to increase the productivity and blah, blah, blah. You know about all of that. And let's say at the federal level, we go and see the Minister of Economic Development. What would be your question you'd like to ask him?
Oh, what question to ask him? Interesting.
And I must say that I know that Dan has been working in politics in a prior life, so it's an
It's even
more
better.
Yeah,
interesting answer.
And it's funny because in Canada, we're a very diverse society.
Sure.
And like in Quebec, like Hydro-Québec, I think has some programs out there existing already where they will provide funding to companies here in Quebec
To consume less
to
electricity.
consume less
and blah, blah, blah,
electricity
yeah.
and such.
But federal level.
Federal level. What would I?
Yep.
How are you getting value from taxpayers' dollars in investments in digital transformation or making companies smarter to compete on a global basis? That would be my question. I guess would be what information are you getting back, or what proof are you getting back from a company?
What's the retroaction of all
Yeah.
the money from the program? How are you monitoring the value you're truly creating within the company?
Exactly. I think that's.
Okay, I like it.
I think that's a.
You seems like a skeptical person, or
I'm
a
not
true-
skeptical. I'm not
or,
skeptical. I think we don't mind paying our fair share of taxes. I'll put it that, right?
And we do.
We do, right?
Sure.
And Quebec might be a little bit higher than where I come from in Ontario, which is fine because jurisdictions are different across Canada, and that's our mosaic, right? But where I think that there's a lack on all levels of government, and just not Canada, this is not just Canada, this is globally, right? Is the visualization or the proof in the pudding that if a government has invested or $100 million in a company or provided this kind of funding to a program, where is the proof or the actual physical data that investment made a difference and or a benefit to the Canadian people?
I guess the first question to ask is, what's the unit of measurement of that value being created?
Because at some point in history, we were monitoring the job creation,
Yeah.
which is
Yep.
not at all a good KPI
It's
now.
not a KPI anymore.
It's not a KPI anymore. And I work for a research center that is partially funded. And so there is a whole deal about how we provide our reports of the investment that was made and what's
Sure.
the value we create. So
And I can use that as a specific example in that the data they feed to the general public, I don't know if you call it flawed, it's misleading in a way, in that when they say they've created 75,000 jobs, and this could be any government, be it liberal, conservative, or NDP, okay? They say, we created 75,000 jobs. Okay, so that might be 20,000 jobs that are full-time, that a person can make a living, buy a house, buy a car. But a lot of them right now are part-time jobs where that a person needs one or two or maybe three part-time jobs to be able to pay their bills or to live on. So I think that's a distortion of the truth a little bit, where
Sure.
that, okay, you're creating three part-time jobs to one full-time job, but that person needs those three part-time jobs to make a living.
there's no equivalence.
Yeah.
No equivalence. It's
KPIs
flawed.
are tricky, and I
It's-
think they go through so
Yeah.
much levels of reporting
Yeah.
that sometimes it may be a bit scattered and a bit.
Yeah. So now we're getting into political discussions. With okay,
Yeah,
please
but,
note that this is not an Emerson thought. This is a Daniel Miller thought. Okay.
I really like it, and I really will get towards the point that how can we measure, what's the unit of measurement of the value we're creating with the money invested in productivity of the company and so on. So I keep that in note. Other question for you, Dan, in the past year, what was one of the book author conference that you saw that truly inspired yourself to be a leader today, go in front of many companies, you have a lot of conversation, you seem to have a good opinions on so many topics. So what's one of your best source of energy and creativity?
So unfortunately, at this present time, I forget the author.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is too bad for him, but
Yes, but there's two books that I read in the past year. They're based on presentations and or actually, you know what?
I'm taking notes.
Can you grab my my backpack there?
Yeah, sure.
Are we,
Sure.
You're live, okay?
no problem.
I can look it up. Chaise.
We were talking about memory losses.
Yeah. the memory bank has exceeded its value right now.
Now you just tricked yourself because you got a really good French, huh? I got one sentence that you have the accent, you have the proper wording, and so on.
Je parle français, mais c'est pas. Je suis très insécure dans mon français.
Oh oui, il y a de la famille à Québec, là. Il va comprendre si on parle en français.
Okay, perfect, no problem. But
Oh.
I'm really happy to practice my English anyway.
Okay, so I have it on Amazon, so
Sure.
I can look it up. So the author had written. So I've been doing in what I do for a living for 25 years, where I talk to customers and present to customers.
Yep.
And it's funny. I always talk about. I always say I called it the show up and throw up.
Okay.
Right? And then sales, where you have your portfolio of Emerson products or whatever, and you really don't know what the customer is looking for. You don't know what the solution is or what the problem is. So you just they say, well, what do you have? So you just kind of open up the catalog and go, bleh, right?
Show up and throw
Show
up.
up and throw up,
I
right?
get it now. Okay,
Right?
perfect. Yep.
Show up and throw up and see what sticks to the wall. And I guess talking to colleagues and working with colleagues we've been doing for a while, we kind of figured, okay, let's talk about the solution cell now, right? Okay, so we have no service in here.
No, unfortunately, we don't.
Okay, so I will email you.
You're gonna get back to me.
I'll
on
get
this
back
one?
to you on the authors.
Perfect.
So the
You
author,
remember the name of the book? No. Okay, it was there as well.
for the longest time, I actually had the book in my backpack, and
Okay.
I took it out when I went to Pack Expo this year, and I didn't put it back in because I have customers ask me, "Oh, how'd you this presentation you're doing? It's very right." And I'm like going very, very narrow and very specific to what I want to talk to. And it's funny because I do because a lot of customers say, "Oh, I'm not sure of Emerson," so I have the slide. This is Emerson. We've been around for 100 years. We do this, and this. But then I say, "Okay, let's talk about you. What do you do? What are your problems? What keeps you up at night?" Exactly, right? And it's Veronica and I were talking. She has a slide deck that she was going to go through with me today with 50 slides. I said, and I didn't tell her this, but I said, when I go to a customer's with a PowerPoint, I have 160 slides because Emerson is so vast and discrete automation is so vast.
You just don't know what you're going to choose
I don't know what
from.
we're going to talk about,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
And so my colleagues are looking at me like, "Oh my God, we have 160 slides." I said, no. This is behind the scenes.
Sure. We have a
Right.
conversation to have with the
Conversation.
customer at first.
So my colleagues, they were nervous in the beginning where I said, "Okay, we're going to talk about this. What is your keeping you up at night, right?" And they're like, "Okay," but then maybe the conversation doesn't start really well. Okay, so then I pivot a little bit and I go, "Okay, so this is what discrete automation, the legacy FLMC side of it, and then the new we'll call controls and software. So our hardware side of it, and then our PLCs and controls and software side of it, and then they'll see that it's only 2 slides. It's very narrow, very narrow again, and then now usually say, "Oh, I use that," or "Can you help that with it?" And then I go into Mavicon next, which is the software stack. And then depending on how the conversation goes, then I can go into and really narrow in to what in the power of my PowerPoint of going to where I need to talk to. And sometimes I don't even go to the PowerPoint, I'll go right to the internet, to our website, or we'll go to the machine.
Directly on the shop floor
On
and
shop floor
show
and go,
them what it
show
could
exactly.
look like as a solution to the
As a
current
solution,
problem
right?
they have.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
The best presentation is actually out there, right? It's,
Right, it's there. And so, and
I truly like it. I want to name up that book because that's really my style at sales. Because I truly believe data make people think, but emotion makes people buy.
Right.
So if you can pinpoint what's their problem, what's their rock in their shoes, what's their sandbox where they're losing money in their P&L and so on, and you can emphasize this kind of solution you can bring to that instead of showing your show up and throw up
Yeah, and
catalog. I really like that approach at sales.
And then even when I go to like a trade show or like
A booth, a trade show like that, a convention.
a convention, and or like say the PMMI's annual general meeting or the baking industry's general meeting, they have people that come in and talk, and they'll go through slide. So this book that I'll send you the information on, he really talks about, okay, how do you create the story, really narrow the story into 10 slides or into a visualization, right? And he was really big into visualization or the picture, right? And he talks about a lady from Israel who's a Holocaust survivor who does it. She'll do a talk for students where she uses no PowerPoint. Imagine that, no PowerPoint.
Nothing.
Oh my God, no PowerPoint. But she comes from her mind, and her presentation, it's a breathing, living thing.
It's a storytelling ability.
With, exactly, with the children, right? Who know maybe a little bit of the Holocaust or what it was about, right? And so he had one where he was doing a presentation for hunger, for I think World Vision or such, and he put a slide up of we probably see it in the TV where it was a child who's starving, and he had it up there, and it was like, boom, right there, and this is what we're here for, and he really talks about that's what you need for your message. And I read that, I looked at that, and I was like, oh, okay. So I really did that for my presentation for digital transformation, where I had the slide of the lady in front of the data. We talked about that.
That's it.
Right? Another
it's
one
a strong image.
Yeah, strong image. Another slide that I use is a cartoon, a comic a gentleman, gourmandise, like he's eating a lot of food, right? And it just like, right?
Like
And
those hot dog, des
exactly.
concours de mangeurs de hot dog.
Yeah, hot dog competition, right? I use that in saying, okay, you want to implement IoT, but don't take on a project that's too big right away.
Sure.
Scale down, have a proof of concept or proof of concept project that is very small but scalable.
Make
Start
it a
small.
success story
Make
for the
success
whole
stories so
quarry.
you can now get buy-in from the people on the floor, the operators, get it in from management and such, and then you scale it up, right? And then another one I use is a picture from a fighter jet that also has a whole bunch of instruments on it. And I talk about visualization. Okay, again, you have there in a fighter cockpit. I think you have like 125 dials and sensors and stuff, but really you only need 5 of those instruments to fly the jet. Only 5.
That's it.
Everything else is extra, right? So it shows you narrow down visualization.
Sure.
And so for me, that was a very big leap, and colleagues are like, "Oh boy," but you know what?
Where are you going with
Where
that?
are you going with this? But I did the presentation at the convention, and I had, I'll say, 83 people come up to me after saying, "Can you come talk to me, or can we come get you?"
I really
Yeah.
like it, and I will be thrilled to do a presentation with you, Dan. Now, this is my kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
Last question for you, Dan. Let's say we walk down the alley here. We find altogether a magic stick. You have only one wish. What would you change in Emerson in one bam? Money is no object. The time is no object. The emotion of your colleagues are no object. You know, everything can happen.
And it's in the privacy of us three in the podcast we're
Absolutely.
recording.
Nobody will.
No stress.
We'll hear about that.
Yeah.
What's the audience approximately of the podcast?
You don't want to know.
So, what I would change in Emerson? Well, I have to think about that one.
Okay.
I would say there's lots of things that you always think can be better, right? But you don't know what the other levers that have to change to
Sure.
do that, right?
And your company is growing pretty much by acquisition, so it's a business model that is moving all the time, and it's.
I think that there's always newer technologies that I think that we're looking at investing in or acquiring. I hope that we never lose that as an edge. We're always looking. I think that we're really good at looking 5-10 years down the road.
Sure.
Maybe how we plan to get to that road or that destination might be a little bit better, but that's something very minor.
So you didn't answer the question yet.
Now we're filling the space now, letting Dan think about it. Maybe a special acquisition, I don't know, a new kind of technology that would ease the rest, I don't know.
Well, yeah, there's always newer technologies out there that we're always looking at.
I don't want to influence the answer, though. I'm really bad now.
No, it's in my position, I have to be very careful what I say, unfortunately.
I understand.
And I guess I'd have to really, hopefully it doesn't ruin your podcast.
Okay. I have something. Do you want to get back to me on this one? Because I have a special invitation for you.
Oh,
okay.
Sure. I'll come back to that one. As I said, I because we're going off the cuff here, what I know and what I say
Sure.
are very very different things. So I would have to reserve judgment on that answer, and so that I don't get in trouble.
I know that in every company, and as large as Emerson is, probably common knowledge. You know, when you learn something, everyone can learn it at the same time.
Collective intelligence or
collective
ways
knowledge.
to share.
And even like I think in the last couple of years, Emerson's made significant investments in that avenue of collecting information internally and be able to share it amongst the team.
Yep.
Significant investments. and making us quicker to respond internally to bring in a group think and or various people from a global perspective to solve an issue internally or externally for a customer, right? That I think has been one of the things that if you had asked me this a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have said, yeah, that's something that we would need to look at
But
internally.
we're not living in the past,
But
Dan.
not
It's not a valid answer.
But for
There's
right
no
now,
coming back.
but today we've now come to that where that we can do that and we can really move. It's funny how I think that as over a $20 billion company that we are flexible in that we can internally in our business units work together to work with a client internally and externally. So I'll reserve judgment on that. I'll come back to you on that, I
Perfect.
promise.
But that was a wonderful answer.
Yeah, I truly believe it was. My rain check to you, Dan, is that on November 8, 9, and 10, we, the Chaise Bleue and GLM, will be at the Marriott downtown Toronto.
Okay.
There's a convention. It's called the Hard Tech.
Okay.
It's a convention for people that want to buy manufacturing of semiconductor here in North America.
Okay.
Instead of buying all of these semiconductors, from China and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
on. So that will be a pretty big convention. I think there will be around 500-600 people that will come down. You told me you were from Ontario.
Yeah.
So I will be in your landscape. I will be
Yeah.
on your ground. I'll be there with my podcast if you want to come and visit me. In front of these people and you have that answer, you'll be more than welcome because the talk with you, Dan, was truly rich. You've been really open-minded.
C'est très gentil, très
Thanks for
gentil.
thanks for your time, Dan.
Un
It was
invité de marque.
truly, absolutely,
Je-
truly like it.
Yeah, thank you, no problem. I live 50 minutes from downtown on a good day, maybe an hour and a half on a bad day.
I'll be at the Marriott.
Marriott, okay, so send me a courriel on that.
I will.
I'll be there. I think that our team will probably be there
He
because...
said he'll be there.
Yeah,
so-
c'est le 9, 9, 10, 11 ou 8, 9, 10?
8, 9, and 10 November.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll have to look at the schedule because I think there's another trade show in Quebec on those same dates, I think, somewhere, but I have to look at that. I'll make sure that I'll be there. I would think so. Emerson is very big in the semiconductor industry, where we supply products to the manufacturers of the machinery who build the chips and such. And you are correct. There is a significant investment here in North America in bringing back chip manufacturing to North
And
America.
chip manufacturing and also hard tech equipment.
Yeah.
People doing thermostats, people building all of these products made from semiconductors and chip and so on. There's a lot of movement into it, so we've been asked to participate there.
Okay.
So
Well, that is, Emerson is in that industry. We actually just spun off the commercial residential group from Emerson. So that would be companies like White Rogers,
sure.
Copeland compressors. So they're very big in that. So White Rogers is your thermostat you see on your wall. So that
Maybe I'll see some people from Emerson.
I'm going
there.
to check to make sure that we're there. So because I have it's not my group, so I'm going to make sure that we're there, and I'll come down and definitely talk with you. We'll have dinner.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Dan, thank you very much
Merci
for your
beaucoup,
time.
Tonton.
Truly
Merci,
appreciate it.
Véronique.
Merci
Okay.
beaucoup, Véronique,
Merci.
comme co-animatrice. Je t'adore. Merci pour ton temps.
Ben, Dan.
Well, I hope I didn't make